Hello, and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business.
I used spreadsheets for 15 years.
Oh my God, did you?
I know. But as my business grew, I grew out of the spreadsheets.
Yes.
And it got harder to sort of keep on top of all my invoicing and quoting and things like that. And Rounded was the accounting software that finally converted me. And it helped simplify my taxes and also just let me take ownership of what goes on in my freelance business. And I love that I've got visibility over my finances, so I can see what's happening with my cash flow and all the other insights that are on the dashboard.
I know, the dashboard is so cool. I love a good pie chart, and I love the whole thing because it makes it so much easier to work it out.
Yeah.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can save 20% on any annual Rounded plan, even if you're an existing customer. So see the show notes for details. Hi, Rachel. It's great to be back with the podcast, recording new episodes, meeting some great people. Don't you agree?
Yes, it's been fabulous. I think this is our second week back after the summit, and I really didn't realize how much at a loose end I was not podcasting. Does that mean we are officially like real podcasters?
Oh, I hope so. After 5 and a bit years, I hope so.
When you actually miss getting on the mic. But we do have some really inspiring guests lined up, and I think that we learn as much as our listeners do. So I'm excited with our guest this week is Jenn Donovan, who has crossed my radar on a couple of Facebook groups, and she has a really great backstory. So why don't you do the intro and we'll get her in the hot seat?
Sounds great. Love to. So Jenn Donovan is a property law specialist turned retailer, turned social media and marketing speaker, change maker, momentum creator mentor. That's interesting. We have to ask her about that. And coach to small business. She describes herself as a marketing nerd, passionate social media user, mum of 3, wife to the amazing farmer. So she's out in rural Australia, a small business lover, creator of many podcasts, including Small Business Made Simple podcast, which I've listened to and it's so helpful, Stories from the Bush podcast, and Along the Murray podcast. She's a founder of Buy From a Bush business and co-founder of Australia's premier online marketplace for rural and regional small businesses, which is spendwithus.com.au. Welcome, Jenn.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. It's always really hard to be on the other end of a mic and hear your own bio read back to you. It's just like, that sounds impressive. Who's that person? Oh, okay. It's really difficult to listen to your own bio back to yourself.
Yes.
It is weird, but you have done a lot, actually. I didn't realize that you were behind Spend With Us and also Buy From a Bush business. Is that separate to the other Buy From the Bush?
Yeah, so Buy From the Bush was a trending hashtag like back in 2019. And I was just finding, as I was going around the countryside doing workshops just at that particular moment, that people didn't understand Instagram. Side note, I think that people still don't understand Instagram like 6 years later. But and so I just thought I'd start a Facebook group because everyone knew how to post on Facebook, and it just kind of went off and viral. And I think it sort of sits at around that 370 odd thousand people in that Facebook group. But it's all about, rural people being supported by, big communities, city people, whatever. It's quite a beautiful legacy. And I think between that and Spend With Us, it's injected, I think, around about $9 million back into the rural economy. So, that to me is kind of like, wow, that is amazing.
Such a great legacy. So impressive.
It is. But you have had such a kind of like interesting background switching from law to marketing. Tell us about that.
Oh, look, that's it. That's it. Can be an interesting story, I guess. So out of uni, went into law, did that for around about 17 years or so. And as
Wow.
my story goes, my best friend and I had way too much wine to drink one night. And we are like, yeah, let's throw in our corporate jobs. Yeah, we want to work for ourselves. And so we got the local newspaper out. We saw one of our favorite shops from when we were kids was for sale. So we went and bought it. I don't know. Like I sometimes think some really big moments in my life happened and I don't quite know how they happened. I'm not quite sure how I agreed to that, how the bank said yes, how this all happened. It just kind of like I landed somewhere one morning and went, oh, it's a bit like when I moved out, we're fourth generation farmers, and somewhere in my first year of marriage I agreed to move out to the farm. I don't quite remember agreeing to move out to the farm, but apparently I did. So I must have selective memory on big things. But yeah, so we became our own business owners. We bought a gift shop, which we ended up turning into a kitchenware shop because we listened to our customers and there was no kitchen shop in town. So that's kind of the route we took. And I always had a marketing mentor whilst I was there because I didn't know anything about marketing when I was doing property law. It was kind of like it was all about collaborations and partnerships really is how you got your business, which I didn't realize was marketing back then. But and yeah, when we sold the shop 7 years later, my marketing mentor asked me to go into business with him. So that was kind of like the start of my marketing coaching mentoring business. And after a couple of years I just went out on my own, which was about 8 years ago now. So yeah, I've been talking marketing to anyone who will listen long enough for at least 10 years now.
Oh, that's great.
Oh.
I love that you're such an advocate for rural Australia. So you said you grew up in the bush or you're fourth generation farmers?
Yeah, so my husband is. So I was a farmer's daughter and now I'm a farmer's wife. So yeah, I grew up on a farm and then we moved to town and I swore black and blue I'd never marry a farmer. And I was 15 when I met my now husband. So it didn't
Gosh.
last very long. Yeah, yeah. So yes.
Wow. What's it like living on a farm? What do you guys farm?
So we have a wheat or a cereal crop and a sheep farm. So dry land, so no irrigation or anything, but we have a merino stud. And look, honestly, I'm the worst farmer's wife in the world. When my kids were little and used to play football for the local football club, I would like fire 1,000 questions at my husband on the way to football. How much rain have we had? What crops have we got in? What are they looking like? Because I was guaranteed there would be a farmer that would come and sit next to me at the football and ask me all those questions. So I just asked him for the answers because, yeah, I'm not a very good farmer's wife, but I do try.
All of
Gosh.
that stuff, like the, rain and everything. It's such another layer of stress, isn't it, over your business?
Incredible. I don't know how they do it, to be honest. Like, I think in my business, in my marketing business, I have somewhat control over my audience and over my sales, like not huge control, obviously. You're still up against, trends and things, but, they have to wait till God or Mother Nature sends them some rain. And I must say, he or she has done a really bad job this year. It's not looking fantastic down where we are in the Riverina. So, another
That's
layer of
tough.
complexities.
We hope that there's some rain dancers that
Yeah.
bring us some water soon. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's right. Sydney, send me the rain because Sydney's
yeah,
getting drenched, I believe.
there's
Yes.
certainly up here you can have it all. I get to the point where it's like halfway up my tires in the street outside. So,
Oh
yeah.
no.
Yeah, it's pretty full on here. But so rural businesses, you're working with rural businesses a lot. What do you love about that? And what are the challenges?
Yeah, look, the challenges are just as great as probably how amazing it is to work with small rural and regional businesses. Of course, I work with lots of different businesses, city and regional, rural, remote, but I do have a bit of a soft spot for rural and remote small businesses, being one myself. But I guess, the challenges are a little bit like, internet. I'm actually in a really lucky spot. I think, sometimes the gods shine down on you. And I have there's this little triangle that my farm seems to have squeezed itself into. So I have really good internet most of the time, whereas, my neighbors, not so much. Although I think as much as I don't love Elon Musk, he has probably changed the game a lot with his satellite internet for a lot of rural businesses, because I think the pandemic did bring that home where you could work from home, but a lot of people were like, well, I can't work from home because I actually don't have the internet to work from home. But I think also farming is a business. The farming's big business these days. Farming isn't just, what perhaps our grandparents were. Like now it's very technical, it's very price driven. You've got to keep up with things, you've got to have access to, satellites to drive the tractors and all of that sort of thing now. So it is quite tech savvy. And unfortunately, I don't think the country's quite keeping up with that. So we have technical issues, of course, but I think it's great. Like, I talk a lot about community and growing communities, and I think rural people do that really well. Rural people really understand the assignment when it comes to, having that community around you that will not only support your small business, but will actually, shout it out in a room full of opportunities, or give a shout out on their socials, or share it with a friend, or tell a friend. I think there's so much more of that. One of my friends was talking the other day about, a question for small business owners, and it was kind of like, would your customers fight to save your business? And I loved that, but I shook my head, I nodded my head. I'm like, I think in the country we would. I think, if a business was going bad in the country, providing it was, a great business who gave great service, the community would be like, yeah, no way, you're not disappearing, we need you. And they would come and they would try their best to save that business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that idea of building a community is really strong. Do you think that helps to make a small business? That's an important part of having a small business?
I really do, because I really think that for too long, small business owners have thought about an audience. I want to grow my followers, my likes, all of that. But an audience is something you talk at. Like a community is something you're involved in, and a community actually does business without you. So, you create a community, and not only do they hopefully do business with you as the person leading that community, but they also share each other's and they collaborate with each other. And you just become this person who's built a community and help them grow their business in so many different ways for them. Whereas an audience, I think about it, when I stand on stage, I talk at an audience. Whereas, I like to be off that stage as well, and, interact with the people, and sort of create that community feel as well. So I think it's really important. I think if you want longevity in your business, you need, a community of people who know, like, and trust you, and who will refer business to you and kind of be like a super fan for you.
Yeah.
It's sort of a symbiotic relationship, isn't it? And it's probably more sustainable over the long term, rather than people just throwing money at you in the short term. It's about building something for the long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we also talked a little bit about podcasts, and I think that podcasts are a really good way of building a community. I mean, Rachel and I can certainly attest to that. Do you see that as an important part of the marketing mix?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing part of a marketing mix, because I think, somewhat building a community is about letting people into your world, and that know, like, and trust factor. But storytelling is just so important. And I think podcasting does that really well. They get to know, like, the nuance of you as much as you want them to. Like, a lot of people sort of push back on me when I talk about, storytelling and human to human marketing type of thing. And they're like, but I don't want to share my life. And so it's like, well, you don't have to share your entire life. Like, people will say to me, you share so much online, Jen, I don't think I can do that. But the reality is I share probably 2 inches of my life that is like kilometers long. Like, I share what I want to share, but there's lots in my life that I don't share and I don't feel comfortable sharing out there, or, it's just what I want to keep private, for sure. So I think podcasting is really good for storytelling. And I think, whether you're a guest on someone else's podcast, which is still a really great marketing strategy, or whether you actually create your own, I think that can work really well from community building. And it is a one-way relationship, though. I had a very funny instance where someone met me for a coffee, and I didn't really know this person, but I'd agreed to go to a coffee with them because it was after the pandemic pandemic and, hey, someone wants to see you in real life, I'm there type of thing. And, I sat down, and for the first 10 minutes, it was the most surreal thing I'd ever seen, because they were asking about the farm and about the kids, and they were talking about this and that. And I'm like, I don't know you from a bar of soap. And then they said, oh, something about the podcast. And I sat back, I'm like, they're kind of like a pseudo relationship. They know so much about me because they listen to the podcast, but I don't actually know anything about them. So that was a really big aha moment for me in a podcasting human marketing way.
I've definitely had that experience as well. I think you're right, much a one-sided relationship, but it's such an intimate relationship as well. Like, people hear you in their ears every week, and they do feel that they get to know you and almost like you're a friend and stuff like that. So there can be a lot of over familiarity when they actually meet you in person and you're like, I really don't know who you are. That's the one thing about podcasting that is kind of tricky. You don't have a lot of metrics over who's listening, and suddenly you'll hear that people, like, we've got a guest on who's in America, someone that we both have followed and really, were interested in. And she told us, I love your podcast. I've been listening forever. And we just didn't know. Like, you just don't know unless you're getting reviews or people are telling you. So that's the hard side of it, isn't it? Like, you've created a sort of community that love what you do, but you don't really know about who they are unless, you have an in-person kind of meeting or an event or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone is listening that is into data, please create some more data points for
Yes.
podcasters. Like, we really don't know much at
Yes.
all about, who our listeners are and things like that. But I always find it bizarre that on social media, we are taught about, quick content, 2 minutes, 90 seconds, like that's kind of your sweet spot. Whereas we can, as podcasters, we can get people to listen for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. What is one of the most popular podcasts in the world goes for like 2.5 hours. It's just like, you cannot get that sustainability and that connection through any social media platform.
Yeah, it's interesting. What about podcasting as a business opportunity for writers and content creators? How can we use them in that way, do you think?
I think you can do both sides of the coin with that. I'm pretty sure that you could reach out to people to be guests on people's podcasts. I think that's a really good marketing opportunity, and we know that as podcasters, we are always looking for really good guests to put in front of our audience, because it's hard to build an audience, so we are probably a little bit gatekeeperish about it, but we are always looking for great people to come on. So I think if you can get a great sort of hook to get someone to open that email or reach out to them on social media and not make it about you. Like, I don't know about you, but I get about 20 emails a day telling me how good someone is, and nowhere in that email tells me what they can do for my audience. And every now and then they get a lecture, they get a little reply that goes, do better. But also, you could start your own podcast. Not everyone has to podcast every week for 6 years or 6-ish years like we are. You can do a season of 6 episodes and, really have that sit on your website and market that, and have that as a really key point to help your clients. If they've got questions, it's like, have a listen to the podcast, and then potentially you can turn those into blogs, and then you could get them, into a piece of AI, of course, these days, and chop them up into little bits. Like, you can do so much with a podcast, and it doesn't have to be something that you do all the time. Like, you can make it for a season or a reason.
Yeah. I love it.
So interesting. You've also talked about social media quite a lot. Obviously, your sort of buying from the bush sort of campaign had its genesis there. And I have to say, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with social media. How can we make it work for us?
Yeah, I have that same love-hate relationship, Lynn. Like, if it blew up tomorrow, I'm not going to say that I would be sad about it, except for keeping up to date with maybe my friends and their kids and things like that, like that real social element to it. And I suppose that is one of the ways that we can make social media a little bit better. I think as business owners, marketing is overwhelming sometimes, and it's a lot of work sometimes. And we do get into the trap of just marketing our business as opposed to looking at it and going, well, it's actually a social platform. So how much of my time am I actually spending being social on this platform with potential collaborators or potential clients or, customers, that sort of thing. Like, spending, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes every week replying to comments, liking other people's things, sharing other people's things, celebrating other people's businesses. And I call it my Hansel and Gretel strategy. So just sprinkling those breadcrumbs everywhere so that, they come across your name and you're like, you're everywhere. And it's just like, well, I'm not everywhere, but I'm trying to be proactive on there and, be social on social media. I know it's outstanding therapy, isn't it? But it really does work. And I think if you only have time for a few things with marketing, I think you should do more video and do more Hansel and Greteling.
Yeah, I love that. Hansel and Greteling. That's a great strategy. And you do see, like, even after, I know I might like something, and then 3 months later, I'll get a comment on that comment. I always think, oh my gosh, it was
is
long.
interesting.
Yeah, it does kind of, take time to get a momentum, I suppose. I wanted to talk to you about, building a personal brand if you're a freelance writer, because I think that kind of thing can stop you actually doing anything. So you think it's not already, it's not where I want to be, so I can't actually do anything until everything's perfect. We have this kind of myth of perfection. Do you need a really rock solid personal brand with all your ducks in a row before you can even start trying to grow your freelance business? Or is that a bit of a myth?
Yeah, it's definitely a myth. Like you look at someone who's doing a really good job and like you aspire to, and then go to their Instagram and scroll 3 years back and just see how unpolished they were, how their messaging just wasn't quite hitting the mark, but they were just trying. And I think the perfection trap is a huge thing for not only freelancers, but small business owners altogether. And I think the thing I try and tell people that perhaps breaks their heart a little bit is you can try and be perfect, but I will find a hole in it somewhere because perfect to you is not perfect for me. So if you're still trying to be perfect, you're never going to get there because someone is always going to find something wrong with what you call perfection. So my biggest driver in business is a small saying that my mentor always gave me, which is ready, fire, aim. So get ready, fire, just do the thing, get it out there, see if there's a market for it, and then, tinker with it and aim sort of as you go. Like, tinker with the messaging, tinker with where you're showing up, the different platforms, online, offline. You can do all that, but until it's out there, you don't even know if someone wants what it is that you want to sell them because you just need to get it out there and ready, fire, aim. I think it's a great philosophy to live by. It has got me in a few holes before, but and one of them is probably buy from a bush business. Like I had no idea when I set up this Facebook group on a Friday night that, 3 months later, I would be spending nearly all day approving posts and replying to messages and just being completely overwhelmed with it. If I had known that, I probably never would have done it. But it was kind of like, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. So I think for freelance, right, I think personal brand is important, but I don't think it's important at the start. Like it's important that you're showing up, and I think you sort of do need to use your face and your personality and show people what you stand for and believe in and things like that, but not all at the start. Just start.
Yeah.
And then it kind of evolves and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think you get more comfortable. Like, 5 years ago, or probably a little bit longer than that because I've been podcasting longer than that. But, I remember having lunch with a friend and we had to do a Facebook Live during after lunch. We were at a mastermind session and I was devastated. I'm like, I can't do that. I hate Facebook Lives. And the guy that was sitting with me is like, Jen, but you sound and look the same talking to me now as what you do on the Facebook Live. So I don't understand what your problem is. That kind of broke my heart, but was so, so true. Like if you can talk to another human, you can probably show up online.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point. Yeah. And maybe when it's too carefully curated and everything, it can be quite alienating as well. It doesn't seem authentic.
Yes. Yeah. Or, your ideal client isn't the type of person who might look at that and go, oh no, they're not for me. They're obviously, too far advanced, or, they're too perfect for me. I'm not quite, I thought I was their client, but I don't think I am, when you probably are.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's interesting.
With your work with small businesses, you talk a little bit about scaling them. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about that, especially with small businesses, because freelancers are essentially small businesses. So how can they grow and scale without burning out?
Yeah, isn't that the holy grail question, the last bit,
Yes.
without burning out? I think we really do need to understand what our goals in our business are. And, yes, goals move and shift, but I think you have to really understand what you want out of your business and then working towards that. For instance, I don't want employees. Like, I had employees in my retail business and I don't want employees. That's not the business model. I've got contractors and I'm happy with contractors. So I don't want to scale to the point where I need employees, because that is just not the business model I want. So I think some people, sometimes freelancers that are really good at what they do hit the ceiling really quickly because they kind of get booked out. And then I think they need to sort of sit back and go, well, A, am I too cheap? Is that why I booked out so quickly? Or am I just really good at what I do? And B, do I want to scale past here? Do I just want to be a bit more selective of the work I take on, maybe put my prices up? Or do I want to scale? It's just like, no, I want to scale. I want to bring on other people. And I think that's fine if that's what you want. But I don't think that is what you have to do if you hit that ceiling. I think there's some other questions you could be asking yourself to become more profitable and to have a more sustainable business, but maybe a bit more of the lifestyle you hoped for when you went out on your own to become a freelancer.
Yeah.
Those are really great considerations because, as you say, when you pick up an employee, you suddenly become responsible
Yes.
in a much greater way than perhaps, you're not expecting, and all of that comes with it. It's huge. This came up at the summit, actually, didn't it, Lynn? We had a whole session growing beyond solo, and it was so interesting in the questions that came from that as well.
Was there a particular theme that came through?
I think the theme was that not everyone is placed to run a business. So just because you're good at it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the right person for it. It's a different skill set sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think when you do scale or, grow beyond solo, so you pick up those employees, there's so much that goes along with that, like mindset stuff and actually being able to let go and let someone else do the work. And sometimes we're so close to it, and there's that sense of, oh, well, I was hired because they want me specifically to work on this, but you have to, so there's a lot of stuff that goes into making that decision. It's a really interesting. And I love what you said about how it actually could be something else. Like, it could be just your prices are just too low.
Yeah.
And you raise them, you might get a far more comfortable mix of work that continues to just be a solopreneur, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Come back to the goals of your business. Know what they are, know where you want to be, and try your best to stick to those goals. And if you don't have goals, then I guess that's the lesson for today's podcast, is to work out what your goals are.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many challenges. It's been a really big year and a really hard year for a lot of freelance. We've heard that over and over. What are you seeing as the biggest challenges for, freelancers and creative people in your orbit?
Yeah, look, I know someone said to me at the very start of the year, it's going to be a doozy of a year. And I reckon that they ruined the year by saying that, because that's the word I would use. It's been a real doozy of a year. And I suppose it is, looking back at what your goals were for your business, looking at your messaging, is your messaging right? Do you want, are there some changes you want to make in your business? Different clients that you want to go after, things like that. I think it's a real reflective time, unfortunately, because some of us have got time. Like, some of us don't have the work that we're expecting. And so therefore we have got time to sort of reflect on things and, be looking at what 2025 sort of looks like. If you've got a community of people around you, if you've got another freelancer who you really trust, who knows and understands your industry, get them to do an audit. Swap things, do an audit of each other's websites, do an audit of each other's social media, of your bio, of your Instagram. Throw some things into ChatGPT and ask them, what would you change here? Or how could you say this? This is who I am. This is the people I'm trying to target. All of that have a look at what Facebook groups you belong to, and have you been active in those Facebook groups? Again, not just about selling, but about, spreading that Hansel and Gretel sort of socialness. You're replying to people. Maybe it's about exiting 500 Facebook groups and going to look for some new Facebook groups where your potential either collaborators or, potential clients might be hanging out. Maybe you're on the wrong platform. Maybe you've spent all this time on Instagram, but hey, actually, when I think about it, my audience is on LinkedIn. So maybe I need to concentrate a little bit more on LinkedIn and sort of start connecting with some people over there. It's kind of all of that sort of thing. I think we just need to go back, if you've got the time to go back and sort of really go back to the basics. The basics of marketing is who is your who, where do they hang out, and what do you want to be famous for? And so if you've got time, go back through those 3 important questions and, see where it is that you can make some changes. I'm not quite sure if that answered your question or not.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really good because we do get carried away with the day in and day out of our business, and you forget about what you're doing and who you're speaking to. Going back to basics is a really good idea.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. It's one of the problems with being a freelancer or, a small business owner, content creator is you really kind of almost have to reinvent yourself every 12 months. It's kind of like, you spent 12 months doing this. Like, what's the next message? What's the next theme? What's the next thing type of thing? Not every small business goes through that, but certainly a lot of people in my world, like if you're a speaker or a content creator, like you've just got to keep up with things and watch the trends.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's such a good segue into my next question, which is about what's on your must-learn list for the next year. I mean, keeping up with all this stuff involves a bit of skills. What would you say is we should be upskilling in?
Yeah, look, I'd have to say you've got to embrace AI. If you're not using ChatGPT on a daily basis already, then that is probably one of the things you need to start looking at. You need to start investigating how that can help you, how AI can make your life better, simpler, easier, because that's kind of it's been a trend now for nearly 2 years. We've been talking about this AI machine, and I'm sure there are a lot of small businesses that haven't even really realized the power of what AI could do. But so that would be one thing. The other thing I'd really say is, watch who you're letting in your ears. Like, who are the people you should be following, you should be listening to? Who are the people that perhaps you are listening to and following that perhaps aren't hitting the mark anymore, and you need to find some new podcasts or some new blogs to listen to or read and things like that. Yeah, but I just think one of my big things is to watch TikTok. Like, TikTok is like, I know people are against TikTok and it's all about video, but there's a huge trend that I'm seeing, and I'm not quite sure where it's going to land, how it's going to land. But, if you watch say, for instance, the Today morning show and see some of their articles, they've come from TikTok. So TikTok is becoming mainstream media. Mainstream media are getting their ideas from TikTok. That's where the trends are starting. It used to be many years ago Twitter, which of course is a basket fire now, to use very polite language. But Twitter, so TikTok is becoming this very big media machine. So whether you're on it or you're not on it, whether you're creating content for it or not, it's something to really watch next year, because it is infiltrating mainstream media and setting the trends like we haven't really seen in a very long time, which is super interesting from a marketing point of view.
That's
That is
interesting.
interesting.
On
Yeah.
TikTok, I'll go there if I see a link and to go and look at something interesting that someone sent me, but I don't really scroll it like I do on Instagram. So yeah, maybe
You're
that's
welcome
something
to do that.
we might have to start doing some TikToks, Lynn.
Yes,
You and
we
me.
might have to.
Do some
And I
TikToks.
guess, I'm not trying to overwhelm your audience with yet another social media platform, because again, who's your who? Where do they hang out? That's the question you have to ask yourself. But as far as trends go, being able to just have a TikTok account and watching it, even if you're not creating the content for it, I think is going to be super interesting next year where all that lands.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know you've mentioned ChatGPT, but I wondered, what are your favorite tech tips or digital tools that you'd really be lost without? I'm sure you have a few up your sleeve.
Oh, look, I'm a very big advocate for email marketing. So I use Flowdesk. I love Flowdesk. So I would be lost without my email marketing platform. ChatGPT, I absolutely love. I use it all the time. Being a content creator, it's kind of like, what else can I do with that content? So, not just creating a podcast, but creating a whole level of content around it. Cast Magic, which is, that transcribes things and breaks things up into little bits and pieces, gives me, different types of social media posts and things like that. And what's the other one that I use? I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head now. No, it's a app that makes short video out of long video. It's not CapCut, but yes, I don't know. I might look up at my screen. I'm sure that there must be somewhere along here that I'm using it. Opus Clip. Yeah, is another. It's a tool that I use quite a lot, mainly for my speaking business. When you're on stage and then you've got an hour of content, you break that up into little tiny pieces, for marketing and that sort of thing. But yeah, and then of course Canva. Who could live without Canva? Like seriously, I'm not quite sure anyone could live without that. So they would be my boring everyday tools that I would use.
Oh, that didn't sound boring at all.
I'm going to go and check out Opus Clip.
Yes.
I hadn't heard of that one, so thank you.
And that's so interesting. Yeah, and it's great that all these tools, there's so many clever things out there and it's always changing.
Yeah, and like ChatGPT, I'm making my own GPTs now to make it do what I want it to do. Like that's just a whole other evolution to see what other people are making in ChatGPT that could help your business. Like it's just not one engine now. There's a whole heap of tools that are just GPTs that could really help you out. Making them is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Wow. I mean, Rach put me on to Fathom recently as an AI tool, and I just love that as a meeting note taker. It's fantastic.
Yes, that has saved me hours writing notes for clients.
Yes.
And podcasting tool that I'm sort of trying, and I sent it to Lynne this morning, is it Pod Snacks? Is that what it's called? Pod Snacks?
Yeah. Something
and you
like
can
that.
sign up to like 3 pods for free, I think. And then when they drop a new episode, it sends you the transcript, a whole summary of the podcast and what's been said, and different like kind of timestamps for interesting parts of the podcast. It's quite comprehensive, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So good.
That's an interesting one to check out too.
Wow. This has been so brilliant, Jen. So many interesting tips and tricks, lots of practical advice. So thank you so much for coming and joining us and having this chat with us. Do you want to tell our listeners where they can find out more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies. They've been the best questions and I've had a ball. So thank you so much. I'm Jenn Donovan, 2 N's on Jen, just about any platform that you could think of. But LinkedIn is kind of my favorite platform if I had to choose a favorite. Otherwise, if you're a podcast listener, which clearly you are, I would love you to give my Small Business Made Simple podcast a bit of a listen as well and see if that is another podcast that you would like to listen to.
Fantastic.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jen, for being our guest this week. And that brings us to the end of the show. But we really appreciate everybody out there who's listening. And if you like the show, please leave a rating and review on the platform where you find your podcasts. And I guess that's it. We'll see you next week, won't we?
For sure. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks again to our wonderful sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software that helps freelancers run their business with confidence.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can check your welcome emails for an exclusive discount code on the annual subscription rate. You can also find it in the private Facebook Gold group, or just contact us at hello@rachelslist.com.au.